Hey friends, got a second? If you're new here, I'm Ava, and what you're about to hear is the story of the most expensive gift I was ever asked to give, and the boundary that saved my family. If this resonates, drop your thoughts and hit subscribe. It's quick for you, and it keeps this space alive. Okay, deep breath. Let's start where it hurt. My name is Ava Delaney. I'm 33, and I bought a modest 3-bedroom beach house in Santa Barbara 2 years ago. The kind of place that knows your footsteps and forgives your unfinished projects. I work in tech, product at a startup that finally went public, and every free weekend I taught myself how to make that place ours is ours, sanding floors until my palms blistered, rehanging doors that never wanted to sit straight, choosing paint with names like sea glass, an early fog, and pretending that meant some version of peace. It became the center of my life with my boyfriend, Ethan Cole. He's 31, quick with a deadpan joke, endlessly patient with a faucet that refuses to stop whispering at 3 a.m. We'd drive up Friday nights, windows down even when it was too cold, and let the ocean's breath reset our nervous systems. In our heads, that deck was our future. Dinners with friends, kids' chalk ground into the grain, quiet birthdays that didn't need to be big to feel significant. My younger brother, Logan, is 29 and teaches 7th grade science. You should know he's good at it, the kind of teacher kids still write back to from high school. We grew up in the same house, but in different climates. I learned to problem solve. Logan learned to absorb weather. When he got engaged to Sabrina Park, a social worker with gentle eyes and the stamina of a marathoner, I felt like something in the universe was finally being kind. Then came coffee. We met at a place that looks like a Pinterest board. White tiles, brass fixtures, the espresso machine purring like it knows your secrets. Logan was early. He always is when he's anxious. His knee bounced so hard the table trembled. I set my tote down and smiled anyway. "Hey, stranger," I said. He didn't smile back. "Ava, thanks for coming." We did the small talk tango. Wedding planning, school chaos, the price of eggs as a metaphor for American despair. Then he cleared his throat the way Mom used to when she was about to ask for one tiny favor that was never tiny. "You know how much family means to me," he began, eyes fixed on the cup. "Sabrina and I have been talking. We realized the perfect wedding gift from you would be the beach house." I laughed, not at him, at the misunderstanding. "You want to have the wedding there? Of course. We'll figure out permits, parking, the neighbor with the opinion about everything." He looked up. "No, I mean the house, as our wedding gift." The world did that thing it does in car accidents, sound folding in on itself, light turning harder at the edges. I must have heard him wrong, so I repeated it slowly, tasting each word. "You want me to give you the house." "It would mean everything," he rushed on. "Stability, a foundation. You can buy another, you make enough. I don't. Mom and Dad always said family evens out the scales. There they were, our parents, gone 5 and 3 years now, summoned like saints to bless the grab." Something in my chest knitted itself into a knot. "Logan," I said carefully, "I love you. The house?" I stopped, because the sentence, "the house is the first thing I built that no one can take," felt too raw to say out loud. Instead I said, "That's a big ask." His jaw tightened. "You've always been the one who gets things. SAT classes, Dad at every science fair, the startup lottery. I chose teaching. You chose money. It's time you chose family." The words landed like pebbles at first, then like hail. I looked at my brother, at the boy who used to split his sandwich with me when I forgot mine, who drove me to the DMV in a car that coughed and prayed in equal measure, who stood next to me at Mom's memorial when language felt cruel. I wanted to say yes to that boy, but the man across from me was not asking. He was claiming. "I can't give you the house," I said, voice small, testing the shape of no. "But if the venue is the stress, I can help. I was thinking..." He cut me off with a short, mean laugh I didn't recognize. "Pocket change. You don't even hear yourself." I heard the espresso machine hiss. I heard my own pulse. I heard my mother's voice in my head saying, "Ava, don't make everything about money." I wanted to remind her ghost that I wasn't the one who just tried to invoice love. "I'll think about how I can contribute," I managed. "But the house, no." He stared at me like he didn't know me. "Sabrina and I will wait a week for your real answer." He stood so abruptly, the chair scraped the tile, and then he was gone. Bell over the door jingling with awful cheer. I sat there another 10 minutes because standing felt like choosing a side I wasn't ready to choose. When I finally stepped out into the cool noon, Santa Barbara smelled like eucalyptus and sea salt, and something burned. On the drive back to the office, my phone began to vibrate in tiny, angry bursts. Aunt Marlene, I heard you shut Logan down. Heartless, Ava. Cousin Derek, wild how money changes people. A high school friend I hadn't spoken to in years DM'd, not you becoming that girl. A post from Logan's best man, Chase, appeared on my feed. If your family's drowning and you're on a yacht, enjoy your view, I guess. No tags, no names. Everyone knew anyway. By the time I got home, I was shaking. Ethan opened the door before I could fish out my keys. He must have been watching my location like he does when I'm spiraling. He took one look at me and pulled me in, right there in the hallway where the mail collects and we leave our shoes in a pile that means we're safe. What happened? He asked into my hair. I told him everything. I tried to make it sound rational because if I let it be insane, I would have to admit my brother wanted my ribcage as a serving bowl. Ethan listened without adding his opinion like a garnish. When I was done, he went to the desk, opened a shared note, and turned the screen toward me. It was a list. Dates, names, amounts. Money I had given family over the last 2 years. Marlene's urgent breaks, $2,700. Derek's can't miss investment, $5,000, now a ghost. Uncle Ray's medical bill gap, $6,200. Logan's temporary car down payment, $7,500. A slow-motion ledger of my generosity that looked, in grid view, like complicity. I didn't show you before, he said, gentle but firm, because I didn't want to feel like I was tallying your love, but you need to see the pattern. I stared at the numbers until they blurred. I could feel the familiar pull, justify, apologize, placate, as if my worth were a scale and I could never stack enough coins on the right side to prove I wasn't selfish. Ethan watched my face shift and put a hand on my knee. Let me try something, he said. Pretend I'm Logan. Tell me no. Clean. No apology tour. I love you, but I will not be giving you my beach house. I can give $10,000 toward the wedding, I recited, the words coming out like they'd been wrapped in gauze. Again, Ethan said softer. We practiced until my voice stopped asking for permission to exist. That night, a message popped up from a name I hadn't thought about in months. Rachel, Ethan's ex. She'd reacted to Chase's post with a row of side eyes, and the caption, "Yikes, some people never change." My stomach went cold. I knew that Rachel and I weren't at war over Ethan anymore. This wasn't about romance. It was about narratives, the ones people love to write for you when your boundaries don't flatter them. Want me to block? Ethan asked, already reaching for his phone. Not yet, I said, and surprised myself. Let's see who she thinks she's performing for. In bed, the house hummed around us, like it knew the weather was turning. I stared at the ceiling and thought about scales and saints, about how grief makes weapons out of memories. Somewhere between midnight and morning, I decided that love without boundaries isn't love, it's appetite. The next day, I called Logan. He answered on the third ring. His voice was cool, orderly, the way he is when he's organizing a lab practical and pretending the Bunsen burners don't scare him. Logan, I said, I love you, and I will not be giving you my beach house. I can give $10,000 toward the wedding as my gift. Silence. A long, padded silence, like he was building a case around it. Mom would be disgusted, he said finally. She always said family first. I think Mom wanted us to be kind, I said, steady now, not to become each other's plans. He hung up on the word plans. An hour later, my phone rang again. Sabrina. Her voice shook. Ava, I had no idea he asked for the house. I thought, maybe the venue. I'm so sorry. I don't know what to do. I closed my eyes. The ocean roared in my head. I don't either, I admitted. But I think we're about to find out who we are. Outside, the sky had that thin look it gets before a storm. Bright, but fragile. Somewhere, a barista wiped a spotless counter in careful circles. Somewhere, an old post got a new comment, and everyone felt temporarily right. I stood at the window and watched the trees bow to the wind. The house didn't move, not a millimeter. Hold, I whispered to it, to myself, to whatever in me wanted to give away the floor under my own feet, just to keep the peace. Hold. By Friday morning, my phone had become a weather radar, red blobs blooming across every feed. Aunt Marlene posted a throwback photo of Mom holding toddler Logan. captioned, "Real love gives without keeping score." Derek chimed in beneath, "Imagine having millions and still saying no to your own blood." He added a money bag emoji, which felt like a slur. Ethan slid a mug of coffee toward me and glanced at the storm on my screen. "You don't have to read the comments to be in the movie," he said. "I know," I answered, and scrolled anyway, like touching a bruise to verify it still hurt. A group text lit up. Family thread, a title that had aged poorly. Marlene. "We all sacrificed for you, Ava. Now it's your turn to repay the family." Uncle Ray. "No one is asking for a kidney." Derek. "The way you changed after the IPO is scary. We miss who you used to be." I typed, "I'm still me. I love you. I'm not giving away my home." Then I watched the dots bounce and vanish as if polite truth were a bad connection. 10 seconds later, a notification. Chase mentioned you in a story. A slow freeze crawled up my spine. I opened it to see a boomerang of clinking champagne flutes over text. Some people will show you exactly who they are when asked to be generous. Believe them. The camera panned to Logan, off to the side at a high top. His smile was thin. When the phone swung past, he didn't look at it. I set my phone face down, palms clammy. Ethan reached across the table. "Let's get out of the splash zone," he said. "We'll take the long way to work." We drove along the water, the sky the color of an old nickel. I could feel sentences forming in my throat, the ones I always used to soothe the other person's fear. "You're right, I do have more. Maybe I can." I swallowed them like stones. At a stoplight, Ethan squeezed my hand once. "Say it." I stared at the windshield. "I love you, Logan, but I will not be giving you my beach house. I can give $10,000 toward your wedding." "Again," he said, gentle. I said it again, cleaner. No parenthesis, no apology trailing behind like a stray ribbon. By lunch, I had texted Logan to talk. He sent back a calendar invite like we were adversaries negotiating an acquisition. We met in a public park where the magnolias were doing their best impression of hope. He arrived in teacher mode, clipboard posture, measured voice. "So?" I took a slow breath that tasted like metal. "I love you. I'm not giving you the house. I can give $10,000 toward the wedding." He looked past me as if the trees had better answers. "Do you hear how stingy that sounds coming from you?" "It's generous, coming from anyone," I said, and kept my tone level. "It's a boundary, not a punishment." "Mom would call it selfish." The words were flat, a hammer he'd worn smooth with use. "I won't argue with ghosts," I said softly. "I miss her too." His jaw worked. "You're choosing a building over your brother." "I'm choosing a future I built," I said, "and I'm choosing not to fix your life with mine." He made a small, disgusted noise and walked away, phone already out, footprint already composing a story. I stood under the magnolia a minute longer than necessary. A petal fell near my shoe, landing intact, then bruising fast. That evening, the storm reached a new pitch. Logan's manifesto hit everyone's inbox. Subject line, "Context you deserve." It was 3,000 words of old wounds laid out like evidence. SAT classes. I got and he didn't. Dad at my science fairs. The 15-year-old Honda I received at graduation. The watch he did. How I was strategically kind to keep my advantage clean. He copied anyone who'd ever had our number. My heart pounded like I had sprinted. Ethan read next to me, jaw tight, but saying nothing until he finished. "It's a story you can't win," he said finally. "If you defend yourself, you're a narcissist. If you stay silent, you're guilty." I wanted to reply with 10 pages of nuance. Dad worked nights. Mom was tired. We were kids inside a house that ran on triage. I wanted to point out the jobs, the ramen years, the nights my palms burned from sanding pine. I wanted to catalog every holiday I flew home and every bill I quietly filled the gap on, and how love, real love, rarely fits in a spreadsheet, but sometimes you make one anyway, because otherwise you can't see you're being bled. Before I could do any of that, Ethan's phone lit up with a call from his parents, Greg and Diane. He answered on speaker, eyes asking my permission. I nodded. "Ava, honey," Diane said, voice like warm tea. "We've been following. Enough to worry. Can you both come by? Tonight?" They live 20 minutes away in a house that smells constantly of cinnamon and wood polish. Diane is retired from family therapy, which means she asks you questions that deliver you to yourself. Greg is a former financial planner with the soul of a camp counselor. These two have seen our good and our messy, and somehow haven't flinched. At their kitchen table, Diane listened without interrupting, then folded her hands. Ava, you've been good at earning love by solving things, she said, and when you can't solve, you pay. That's a beautiful instinct made toxic by repetition. I stared at my thumbnail, ruined from picking. She continued, gentle but unblinking. Logan's pain is real. Feeling second is a wound, but he has turned it into a grievance narrative. I was wronged, therefore I'm owed. You can't heal that wound by offering your rib. Greg nodded. You didn't steal advantage. You stacked bricks. You're allowed to keep the house you built with your own hands. Ethan squeezed my knee under the table. I exhaled into the truth like a muscle finding its shape. What do I do? I asked, small as a student. Write, Diane said. Not a text, a letter. Validate what's valid. Refuse what isn't. Offer what you can without self-erasure. Mail it. The slowness will help you mean it. That night at the beach house, the ocean sounded like a patient machine. Ethan set out lined paper and my favorite pen like a ritual. I wrote, Logan, I read your email 3 times. Some of it is true. Our parents weren't perfect. Sometimes I felt favored. Sometimes you did. Your feelings are valid, and I'm sorry for the ways I missed them. We are adults now. I'm proud of you for becoming a teacher. Your work matters, but I can't fix your finances by giving you mine. I won't give you the beach house. I will give $10,000 towards your wedding if you can accept with grace. I love you. I want a relationship that isn't maintained by guilt or invoices. If that's possible, I'm here. Ava. I read it aloud to Ethan. He didn't suggest a single edit. We sealed it with the quiet ceremony people used to reserve for vows. 2 days later, my phone rang. Sabrina. Her breath hitched. He's reading your letter again, she said. Not skimming, reading. We canceled the venue. We're postponing. A jolt of guilt shot through me. Sabrina, I didn't mean... No, she said quickly. This is good. He's in therapy. I'm in therapy. The wedding had turned into a proof of worth pageant. We're not doing that to ourselves. I sank onto the couch, relief and sorrow tangling. How are you? Scared, she admitted, but clearer. I keep thinking about the life we actually want versus the picture we were trying to sell to everyone who ever doubted us. Your no, her voice shook, might have saved us. I thanked her for telling me. After we hung up, I stood on the deck with the letterless sky. The water below wore the same face it always had, unbothered by our small dramas. I realized I'd been bracing for punishment, for a cosmic bill to arrive because I'd finally chosen myself. But there was only wind and the patient pulse of something bigger than our feed-fueled courtroom. A notification buzzed. Rachel again, this time a story of a shoreline that looked suspiciously like ours, with a caption, Some houses are just shells. I watched the video twice. The camera lingered on the horizon as if it expected an answer. Ethan walked out, caught the glow on my face, and raised an eyebrow. Block, he said, not a question. I nodded. Block. As he tapped, a thought slid through me like a fish. We weren't just dodging drama. We were choosing a culture for our future. No triangulation, no secret rescues, no side stage audiences. If the house was a symbol of boundaries, then our phones were too. That night, I slept through until morning. First time in weeks. No ghost dreams, no dripping faucet. When I woke, the light had softened. Ethan was already up, grinding beans like a metronome. On the table, he'd left a sticky note. Proud of your no. Proud of your yeses, too. E. The kettle hissed. Somewhere, a magnolia shed what it couldn't carry. I breathed into the new shape of the day. 6 days after mailing the letter, the Delaney group chat fell silent, like a storm holding its breath before deciding where to hit next. I kept waiting for the next volley, but instead, silence stretched thin. Then a notification from Logan Delaney. Subject, context you deserve. My stomach sank before I even opened it. It wasn't to me, it was to everyone. A reply all, of course. He wrote, Thanks everyone for the support. Ava finally sent a letter. I guess boundaries are her love language now. Beneath that, Marlene added a thumbs up emoji. Derek replied with a meme. No good deed goes unpunished. The kind that makes strangers laugh and siblings flinch. Ethan read over my shoulder and muttered, Group therapy, the kind with pitchforks. I laughed despite myself. A dry, startled laugh. It's weird, I said. I don't even feel angry anymore. Just done. He smiled faintly. That's peace. It feels foreign at first. 2 days later, Diane called. Come over, she said. Greg made lasagna, and I think we owe you perspective for dessert. At their kitchen table, I recounted everything. The silence, the subtle digs, the ache of detaching from a role I'd been cast in since childhood. Ava, the fixer. Ava, the wallet. Diane listened. Your brother's anger has logic, just not fairness, she said. He's still narrating his pain as proof of debt owed. Greg nodded. You can't outgift a guilt trip, kiddo. That game has no finish line. Something in me cracked open, a quiet, invisible click. That night, I wrote Logan another letter, not to argue, but to close a door gently. Logan, I know you're hurt. You deserve to be seen beyond your paycheck, but I can't fix what Mom and Dad did or didn't do. I love you. The door's open when you're ready to talk, not trade. Ethan watched me fold it, then kissed the top of my head. Send it, then come back to the world. A week later, the call came, not from Logan, but from Sabrina. Her voice was different, tired, but clear. He's in therapy twice a week now, she said. He's finally talking about the stuff behind the anger. It's a lot. He's realizing how much of his worth he's tied to being pitied. My throat tightened. How are you doing? I'm proud of him, but I'm also learning I can't be his repair shop. She exhaled. We postponed the wedding. Not canceled, just until we build something real. I didn't know whether to cry or applaud. That's brave. Boundaries are contagious, apparently, she said softly. You started something. When we hung up, I walked to the deck. The ocean was still a mirror for whatever you refused to see. The horizon looked both infinite and claustrophobic. Ethan came up behind me, arms looping around my waist. What's the verdict? He's working on himself, I said. They're both trying. He nodded, chin resting on my shoulder. Then it's worth it. We stood there long after the light dimmed, saying nothing. I realized then that this, quiet, stable, undramatic, was the opposite of what I'd grown up calling family. And it was what I wanted to protect. 2 weeks later, the next shock came not through family, but through Rachel, Ethan's ex. A DM. Funny seeing your boyfriend on Zillow this week buying something new. Guess the beach place isn't enough. I froze. My mind sprinted through every possibility. Ethan looking at property without telling me, her fishing for chaos, or both. I showed him the message wordlessly. He blinked, then actually laughed. I was browsing listings for solar panel installs, not buying. She still follows my work account. Still? I asked quietly. He looked guilty for half a heartbeat, then picked up his phone, blocked her, and set it down face first on the counter. Not anymore. I exhaled. Not because I doubted him, but because I realized how fragile trust feels when the past keeps knocking. He touched my hand. Rachel's noise. Logan's guilt. It's all the same sound. People testing your boundaries to see if you'll still apologize for having them. Something about that line stuck. That night, as the tide came in, I opened my journal for the first time in months and wrote one sentence. Love isn't what you give away, it's what you keep sacred. The next morning, my inbox pinged again. A new message, subject line blank, from Logan. Ava, I got your second letter. Thank you for not hating me. Therapy's hard. I'll call when I'm ready to talk, not argue. Tell Ethan thanks for being decent through all this. It wasn't an apology, but it was a crack in the wall. And sometimes that's how the light starts. I closed my laptop, walked outside, and let the cold morning air burn my lungs clean. The ocean was gray, but alive. I whispered to no one, hold. And for the first time, I believed I could. It took another month for Logan to call. I saw his name flash on my phone while I was brushing my teeth. For a second, I just watched it ring, half afraid, half relieved. Then I answered. Hey, he said. The voice was quieter, like it had gone through some sandpaper. I'm sorry for taking so long. That's okay, I said, keeping my tone even. I've been in therapy. It's weird having to admit you were the problem for once, he added, a short laugh that died fast. Sabrina helped me see it. I used you as a scoreboard. My heart stung and softened at the same time. Logan. Wait, he said. Let me finish before I lose the courage. I wanted to ask if we can meet. Just talk. No scripts, no letters. We met at a diner halfway between our cities, the kind that smells like syrup and fried memory. He looked different, less defensive, less brittle. Your letter was brutal, he admitted, but necessary. I was angry for weeks. Then I realized I didn't even want your house. I just wanted proof that I mattered as much as you. You always mattered, I said. Yeah, he replied, but I had to believe it without taking something from you first. That line lodged deep. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was repair in progress. By summer, the storm had shifted into a low-pressure calm. Marlene still sent barbed holiday texts. Derek had unfollowed me entirely. Uncle Ray wrote a short apology card that smelled faintly of whiskey and regret, but the quiet was new, and it felt earned. Then, in July, I got a photo from Logan. Him and Sabrina standing in front of a small community center with the caption, "New venue, small wedding, paid in full." I grinned, then sent back, "Proud of you both." He replied, "No loans, no guilt, just love." That night, Ethan opened a bottle of cheap champagne on the deck. "To your brother growing up," he said, raising his glass. "To me, finally letting him," I answered. He smiled. "You know, you handled this better than most people would have." "Better late than never," I said. "Took 33 years to learn how to say no without shaking." He looked at me over the rim of his glass. "And now?" "Now I shake less." We both laughed, and for the first time in months, it wasn't nervous laughter. 3 weeks before Logan's wedding, Rachel resurfaced one last time, a snide comment under an old photo. "Still pretending money buys peace?" I didn't even tell Ethan. I just deleted the comment, blocked her backup account, and felt nothing but relief. Growth doesn't need an audience. The day before the ceremony, Logan called again. "Ava, we're keeping it small, but I'd like you to come if you want." "I'd love to," I said. "And about the 10,000, he added. "Thank you, but no. We need to build this ourselves." "That's good," I said quietly. "It's necessary," he replied. "You taught me that." The ceremony took place at a rented beach club an hour down the coast. Simple wood chairs, a string quartet, and the kind of sunset that looks painted. When I arrived, Logan's face actually lit up when he saw me. There was no tension, no guilt, no subtext, just warmth. During the vows, his voice cracked when he said, "Love isn't what you're given, it's what you build." Sabrina smiled through tears. Everyone clapped. Later at the reception, Logan clinked his glass. "I need to say something," he announced. The room hushed. He looked right at me. "A year ago, I made the worst request a brother could make. I let jealousy talk louder than love. Ava set a boundary I didn't deserve, and she saved me from becoming the kind of man I never wanted to be." My throat closed up. "Thank you for not giving me your house," he continued, "because what I really needed was to learn how to build one myself." The applause was real this time, soft, human, forgiving. Sabrina hugged me after and whispered, "Thank you for saving him and me." I whispered back, "You both saved yourselves." Ethan found me by the railing, sunset catching in his hair. "You okay?" he asked. "I think so," I said. "It's weird seeing everything come full circle." He took my hand. "It's not a circle, it's an evolution." We stayed there until the lanterns came on, our reflections rippling over the water. The morning after Logan's wedding, the beach house smelled like coffee and sea wind. I stood barefoot on the deck, letting the salt stick to my skin. The ocean was calm again, almost too calm. For a second, I wondered if I'd only imagined the chaos that had nearly wrecked us. Ethan came up behind me, wrapping a blanket around my shoulders. "You didn't dream it," he said, as if reading my mind. "You just survived it." I smiled into the cup of steam between my hands. Feels weird not having someone mad at me. "Give it a week," he teased. Then his tone softened. "You did the hard part, Ava. You changed the story." I looked around. The driftwood bench, the deck we'd built one splinter at a time, the small lemon tree growing out of the pot that used to hold Mom's succulents. "No," I said quietly. "We all did." Oh. A month later, Logan and Sabrina came by. They brought muffins and nervous smiles. "I wanted to see the house again," Logan admitted, stopping at the front step, without wanting it. I nodded and opened the door. "Come in." He looked around, hands in his pockets. "Still perfect." "Still ours," I said. "But you can borrow it for a weekend, guest towels included." He laughed. "Careful, I might actually take you up on that." Sabrina grinned. "You should." He's learning to relax. The four of us sat out on the deck, coffee cups balanced on knees. It wasn't awkward. It was steady. Logan talked about his students. Sabrina told us about a nonprofit she'd joined. When they left, she hugged me and whispered, "I see why this place means so much to you. It feels like peace." When they drove away, Ethan turned to me. "You realize what just happened?" "What?" "You let them in, and it didn't cost you anything." I smiled. Finally. 2 weeks later, we took a late walk on the beach. The sky was violet, the sand cold underfoot. Ethan kept glancing at me like he was working up to something. Then he stopped, reached into his jacket, and pulled out a small box. My heart stuttered. "Ava," he said, voice low but sure. "This house was the start of everything we built. You fought to keep it, to keep yourself. Now I want to build the rest of our life on that same foundation, with you." He opened the box. The ring glinted, simple and beautiful. I didn't even let him finish. "Yes," I said, laughing through tears. 1,000 times yes." He slipped it on my finger, and we both looked up as the first light hit the water, turning it gold. "This feels like closure," I whispered. He shook his head. "No, it feels like the sequel." 3 days later, Logan texted, "Heard the news. Congratulations. When's the wedding? And can I help?" I sent back a photo of the ring resting on my palm, the ocean behind it. "Next year. And yes, you'll be standing beside me." He replied instantly, "Deal. And thank you for saying no when I needed it most." I didn't realize I was crying until Ethan touched my cheek. "Happy tears?" "The best kind," I said. Now, months later, the beach house feels different. It isn't just a prize or a boundary. It's a story that started with guilt and ended with growth. Logan and Sabrina bought a tiny condo across town. They send photos of their paint-splattered weekends and their new couch that doesn't match anything. They look exhausted and proud and entirely real. Marlene still doesn't talk to me. Derek tried to friend me again last week. I declined with a smile. Some doors stay closed because they should. As for me and Ethan, our wedding's next spring, right here on the sand. Logan's going to be his groomsman. Sabrina, one of my bridesmaids. Sometimes at night, when the house creaks and the waves whisper through the glass, I think about how close I came to giving it away, to giving myself away. Now, when my phone buzzes and Logan's name lights up, I don't tense. I don't check my bank balance. I just answer. "Hey, sis," he says. "How's the view tonight?" I glance out at the dark water, the horizon still holding a thin line of gold. "Perfect," I tell him. "It's finally perfect." He laughs. "Keep it that way." I plan to. When I hang up, Ethan comes out with 2 mugs of tea. "What did he say?" I smile. "Just that he's happy." Ethan nods. "Then we did okay." We sit together as the waves roll in, the house steady beneath us, the sky wide open. Sometimes the best gift isn't what you give away. It's the boundary that lets everyone grow.